Okay, I think we're ready to go. Hello, young leaders and change makers, and I'm thrilled to be here today as your host and the moderator of the Global Fund Grand Cycle 7 and Young People webinar, along with my amazing colleagues from Youth Lead and Y+. So before starting, I would like to remind to all the participants to mute yourself unless you're speaking, and feel free to use the chat box if there's any question or any discussion needed to be, and change your name into your name and organization or country, whatever you are comfortable with. So my name is Lige, and I'm honored to welcome all the activists from all around the globe who is passionate about creating positive change in their community. During this webinar, we will explore ways to empower youth engagement and participation in creating a better engagement in the Global Fund process. And we will hear from experts and youth leaders on the importance of youth engagement and how it can be harnessed to address some of the pressing issues faced by young people on the Global Fund's new funding cycle. In addition, we will share our experience and ideas on how to effectively engage in the Grand Cycle 7 of the Global Fund, including the proposal development process, implementation, and designing. So once again, I am so glad to have you all here with us today, and I look forward to have a very productive and enlightening discussion on the youth engagement. It is, and now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker on the youth engagement. It will be Ika Novianti. She's a regional coordinator at Youth Lead Asia Pacific Regional Network, and she has been working with young key populations for over 8 years. And Ika brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to our discussion today on empowering youth engagement and the participation. So without further ado, I turn it to you, Ika.
Thank you so much, Lige. Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, everyone who joined this webinar. So as Lige mentioned, my name is Ika Novianti, but you can call me Ika. I'm the regional coordinator of Youth Lead Asia Pacific Network for Young Key Affected Population. I would like to express my gratitude to the esteemed speaker who have joined us today in this webinar. I also want to thank all the participants who are leading the youth involvement in their own countries to ensure that young key population are not left behind. I would like to extend my thanks to the hosting team from Youth Lead and also Y+ Global for making it possible for us to gather in the same online platform to discuss such an important topic, which is youth engagement in the Global Fund's new funding cycle. The Global Fund is one of the most significant funding mechanisms for global health, with a focus on tackling on the 3 deadly diseases, HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and also malaria. The Global Fund has been instrumental in supporting health programs across the world and has contributed to the significant progress made in reducing the burden of this disease. However, despite these successes, there are still challenges to be overcome, particularly in engaging young people in the process. Youth engagement is a crucial aspect of the Global Fund new funding cycle. Young people need to be included in this decision-making process and actively participate in the planning and implementation of health programs. This inclusion is essential to ensuring the Global Fund efforts are effective and impactful. Engaging young people can be challenging, particularly in the context of global health. The youth population is diverse, with varying needs, interests, and also priorities, but it is essential to have an inclusive approach that consider this difference. To minimize this challenge and to increase the involvement of youth and young people living with and affected by HIV in the grant-making process, regional and also global network, with the support of Global Fund Community Rights and Gender Department, have initiated programs such as this important sharing webinar. Additionally, Youth Lead has developed a youth-friendly guide specifically designed for young people, created by a young person with experience in youth engagement in the Global Fund, grant making cycle. This guide includes all the necessary information in one place. I highly recommend taking this opportunity to review the guide and use it in your journey to engage in the global fund making process on the cycle, which is like GC7. Our brilliant author, Jeremy, will explain all details very soon through his videos. To promote youth involvement, YouthLeads has provided technical and also financial support to its country partners to host small dialogues and also standalone discussion for young key population on the new funding cycle in 5 countries in Asia and Pacific region. Some of this discussion already produced brilliant outcome. I am thrilled to hear from our leaders from our countries who will be speaking at the panel today, sharing their engagement experience in their respective countries. In conclusion, the new global funding cycle presents a unique opportunity to engage young people in the decision making and support their effort to address health challenges. To achieve this, we must adopt an inclusive approach that recognizes the diversity of young people and their unique needs. Meaningful partnership with young people will drive progress toward better health outcome. It is crucial to involve young people in the decision-making process and recognize value they bring to global health response. Through this effort, we can ensure the Global Fund initiatives are effective, impactful, and sustainable. I look forward to a productive, informative, and also meaningful webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ika. Thank you so much for your insightful remark. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Brigitte Quanum. And Dr. Quanum is the Regional Advisor for Science, Systems, and Service at the UNAIDS Regional Support Team for Asia and the Pacific. She has been extensive experience working in public health and HIV programs with a focus on advancing the right of marginalized population. So we're very honored to have you, Dr. Quanum, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ika. Thank you. And greetings to all of you from Bangkok. So thank you so much for inviting UNAIDS, and I would be speaking on behalf of the whole team, and I feel very privileged to be invited by colleagues from YouthLead to give the opening remarks for this important webinar on the Global Fund Grant Cycle 7 and young people. And I really think that this webinar is timely and so important. Why? There is a strong urgency to focus more interventions on young people, particularly young key populations most at risk of HIV. And this is especially relevant in the Asia-Pacific region, where the HIV epidemic is disproportionately affecting young key populations. Just let me give you a number. 26% of the new HIV infections in the region are occurring among young people between 15 and 24, with several countries having almost half of their new infections being young people, particularly young key populations and their sexual partners. Ensuring that HIV prevention programs reach young key population is very important. It's critical to reduce new HIV infections in the region. To do so, programs should capitalize on new ways to reach young people, including through virtual interventions and also through efforts to create youth-friendly services that are free of stigma and discrimination. Ensuring spaces for youth-led organization to be meaningfully engaged in the design, implementation, and monitoring of services is also crucial, as we know that young key populations are more likely to benefit from HIV services when their peers were involved from the start. In particular, Empowering young people is also a priority included in the Global AIDS strategy. And the strategy also lists various concrete priority actions to achieve the targets related to youth, such as scaling up meaningful engagement and leadership of young people. I think there is a microphone which is not mute. Strengthening, I was referring to a number of concrete priority actions to achieve the targets related to youth, naming the following: scaling up meaningful engagement and leadership of young people, strengthening comprehensive sexuality education, and providing tailored and friendly HIV services. Without any doubt, the importance for youth empowerment and engagement applies throughout the Global Fund processes and other processes, but for now we are focusing on the GC7. Community-led responses, including led by youth, are an integral part of the current strategy of the Global Fund. And this is also in line with UNAIDS Global AIDS Strategy and Global 2025 targets. Young people are not just the beneficiaries of the programs, they are also partners, they are also leaders. It's crucial that young people can bring their skills, their lived experience and expertise to inform the processes throughout the GC7. Unfortunately, despite the added value that young people bring, they are often excluded from decision-making spaces on interventions and unable to access the resources and funding that are so necessary to design, implement, and monitor such interventions. Indeed, it's crucial that the engagement of youth does not stop at dialogues leading up to the development of the proposal, but continues throughout the different stages to the grant implementation. Youth leadership can also be bolstered by having more youth in the country coordination mechanism bodies. Considering all of this, UNAIDS is proud to have provided technical support to Youth Lead in the development of this guidance as part of our overall support to countries and communities to optimize the Global Fund GC7 grants. We were able to hear some of the key messages taken from this report at the GC7 workshop that UNAIDS held last month. I am glad that the important information from the guide is now accessible for youth-led organizations to use. We trust and we highly encourage that this resource can be used by youth-led organizations in Asia Pacific as a way to empower them to voice the priorities of their community and create impact that is needed to meet the commitments and goal to end AIDS. Once again, we thank Youth Lead for inviting us to support this webinar, and we look very much forward to having a lively and insightful discussion. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manum, for your valuable information and welcoming. And I would like to repeat what you just said, that young people are not just partners and also beneficiaries and implementers. And we're very glad that you're still here. And I would like to invite our final speaker is Gabriela Romero, Program Manager at YPLF Global and focal point for projects for young people living with HIV, including the Global Fund CRG. And she has extensive experience in working with young people and key populations affected by HIV. And Gabriela is passionate about empowering youth engagement in global health programs. So Gabriela, over to you.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you. Well, greetings to you all. And on behalf of our Executive Director, Maximina Yokonia and Y Plus Global, we would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to our webinar today, the Global Fund Grant Cycle 7 and Young People. We would like to express our gratitude to the Youth Lead team for their significant support and for working with us towards the meaningful engagement of young key populations in the 7th grant cycle to address and contribute to fighting gender-based violence and protecting human rights. As the global network of young people living with HIV, Y+ Global, our mission is to ensure that young people are being mobilized all over the world to advocate for our rights to live a healthy and fulfilling life. We are also a leading voice in calling for the representation and meaningful involvement of young people living with HIV in all our diversity and in decisions that affect their lives, connecting young people as well as to global decision-making spaces. Therefore, we are very proud and happy to have you all here today to present the guide, Young Key Population and Youth Engagement in the Global Fund 7 grant cycle, and on how to engage young key populations. And this guide should provide all of you with your young peers with step-by-step information on how to bring people in with HIV together and meaningfully engaging them and getting involved into the funding request development process, including the community priorities in the funding request. We want to ensure that we're raising the youth voices, building our networks and securing our future. In today's webinar, you're gonna hear from our country networks and other participants on their experiences and the key challenges and opportunities in the engagement of young people living with HIV in the Global Fund processes. And for all our participants and young people attending today, we also want to thank you for your time and for being here. Please use this opportunity to advance your leadership and advocacy skills and make the movement of young people living with HIV stronger and more resilient. Take advantage of this amazing space. As we welcome you to the webinar, it is a pleasure to reaffirm our strength in unity and ethical engagement of young people in advocacy spaces and decisions that affect their lives. Thank you, consortium partners, participants, and panelists for creating this forum where we can raise our voices.
Thank you, Gabriela. Thank you so much for the welcoming, warm welcoming. We really appreciate it. So could I just get everyone's attention for a second and ask to turn on their camera if that's available? And so our colleague AD could take a nice photo of us, and that would be a big family photo. So AD, can you just guide us on it?
Yep, so let's just give it a couple of seconds for people to turn on their cameras. You don't have to, this is optional. If you prefer to keep it closed, that's totally fine. So many wonderful faces. Okay, great. So I'm going to count down from 3, 2, 1, yeah? 3, 2, 1, smiles. Another big smile. Oh, I see someone struggling to get their camera on. You have muted mine, so you have to unmute it. I don't know who you are. Okay, couple more smiles. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you, AD. Thank you so much. Yeah, so back to the webinar, guys. So with that, we're ending our welcoming, and now it's time to invite our next speaker, who's Amanda Banda, a program officer at the Global Fund with 15 years of experience working with various organizations and regions. Amanda brings a wealth of knowledge to our discussion today, and Amanda will be discussing what's new in this new funding cycle and what we should focus on and consider more. As a part of the community strategic initiative within the Community Right and Gender Department. So we're really, really excited to hear from you, Amanda. And over to you.
Thank you so much to the youth lead and Y Plus and all the organizing team for inviting us also to be part of this exciting webinar, and really looking forward to sharing some things, but also learning and hearing from you. For those that have participated in the process as well already, just to hear your reflections, to hear how things are going. And also what have been the lessons learned for those that have submitted in window 1, but also window 2. So I will have a few slides to share, and we'll also email these slides so that they can be circulated, because there's additional information that I may not speak through just because of time, but I think would be important information for you to have and to keep. So what's new in the Global Fund grant cycle this time around? There's 4 things that I would like to focus on and highlight. That is the program essentials, but also the community annex and the community engagement minimum expectations as well. There is the costing tool that also has been developed, and the gender matrix. So this is where we are in the process. I think we are really somewhere around Q2, really going towards submissions for those that are in window 2. They will be submitting in the next couple of weeks, and window 3 and 4 and other windows will be submitting later. And most of you have already been actively engaging in the process. And just to say that the process is broad. It starts with the national strategic plans that you have engaged in, to the point where your countries received the allocation letters, to the consultations that have been taking place, to the writing of the funding requests, for which some countries have already submitted and some countries are in process, to the review, for which some countries, especially those under window 1, are possibly going under review. Moving on to the TRP reviews, the grant making, the approvals, and then the implementation. And this is just to emphasize that our engagement in the Global Fund processes doesn't stop, when the funding request has been submitted, but obviously that we continue to engage at the country level through the CCM monitoring and engaging and influencing implementation, and through other mechanisms as well. So I'm going to share just some of the ideas that have come up for those that have engaged in window 1, some of the lessons learned and experiences, but also maybe what you can expect for those that are working still on window 2, but also in the other windows for submission. One of the major things that we want to emphasize at the Global Fund and within the Community Engagement Strategic Initiative is that we want to make sure that as many young people as possible, have information and knowledge about the Global Fund and all its processes and how they can engage. And definitely this webinar is also one of that opportunity to achieve that objective. Also ensuring that, beyond having the knowledge about the Global Fund and how you engage and what are the processes, you're also aware that there has been and is available several, technical assistance that has been provided by the Community Rights and Gender Department from the Global Fund, but also other TA providers, UNAIDS, Stop TB Partnership, Rollback Malaria, and others that are engaging in the support of communities to engage in the Global Fund processes, and that you, of course, are collaborating and working together with diversity of the young people in all the constituencies, in all the diversities, to really engage, to access the technical assistance, but also to engage in the process. One of the things that we emphasize also as part of the work that you're doing is that, you really understand at your own country level, what are the weak country program areas, and what are the precise, specific gaps that you want to see addressed in the current funding request. That's not currently happening, and hopefully also that you may have some data either through your focus group conversations, through CLM, and also using the national data and other data sources that exist, to support, why the issues that you feel are extremely important needs to be supported. but also that, you're properly writing this down and putting it in writing. And the community annex that I will speak about is one good opportunity, but it's not the only one. We have seen in other countries that the young people write down their own top priorities that they want to see in the funding request, and use that to engage throughout the entire process. A document that consolidates what are your core priorities and the key issues that you want to see funded, but also that you have an engagement plan with all the stakeholders that will also be engaging in this process. So not just with the Global Fund and the CCM at the country level, but that you're engaging all actors, the ministries of health, UNA, WHO, and everybody else that is involved in the process at the national level, so that they are aware of what the young people's priorities are, and that these are also, they're also supporting them, and that they're also carrying them in their own engagement and in their own messages. One of the things that also the Community Engagement Strategic Initiative also really emphasizes and supports the young people is to ensure that, there's adequate representation of the young people that are participating in the national dialogues and all the, the NSPs and all the decision-making processes and stages. And so ensuring that young people are adequately engaged and represented, those that are also representatives are adequately equipped and supported to do the work. And hopefully that at the end of the grant cycle 7, that you would have, influenced some specific priority areas, but also budget decisions, and that you can actually also do a review to say, okay, in country X, this is what we did. This is how we prepared, and this is what we wanted to influence, and this is what we have managed to influence, but also this is what we have learned in the process. And of course, the continued process in the monitoring and evaluation, either through CLM, but also your active engagement in the CCM. So I just wanted to share those as broad, like maybe 7, 8 key points in terms of, the scope or the roadmap. But I'm sure that, my colleague who's going to share on the youth engagement toolkits on the Global Fund Grant Cycle 7 will also speak more and in details in terms of strategies and ideas. So going back to what is new in the Grant Cycle 7 process, in terms of community engagement, minimum expectations, I think it's expected that, young people and communities and civil society will be engaged, in all the 3 key stages of the process. So at the point of the funding request and allocation letters, we hope that young people will also part of the networks and part of the organizations that this information was shared with, that there's been a transparent and inclusive consultative process, that also results in the development of the community annex that I will speak about. In grant making, that's another stage. And I think that my colleague will speak more in detail when he shares the toolkit as well, that young people have been adequately engaged and have been part of the negotiations in terms of, the budgeting and the prioritization, but also in the implementation, as I mentioned. This is about, engagement and involvement in program implementation, but also oversight and monitoring. So I want to emphasize, when we speak about what's new, the community annex document, that is a document that has come up as a result of also experiences in the last grant cycle, NFM3. There was a lot of feedback around, we are raising a lot of issues, but we don't seem to be heard. And also, it's one way of documenting, what have been the asks that civil society and community in their diversity collectively have brought to the table when it comes to the engagement in the grant cycle 7. So this is, on the left is just a template of the document that is meant to be shared with communities and civil society by the CCM at the point when the allocation letters and everything else came, as the process of consultations and dialogue started. This document template was supposed to be shared, and I hope that most of you possibly have seen it, or you're also using it or have used it. The document is meant to consolidate not just for the youth constituency, but cross-cutting all communities and civil society, the core priorities, that you want to push in the funding request. And it's a mandatory document that it should be submitted with funding request at the country level. So the development of this document is meant to be led and done by the civil society and communities themselves, and ensure that it's been submitted as well along with the funding request. In terms of what should be contained in this community annex, I guess it's what I've already explained in the previous point. The problem statement, the rationale, what's the data, what are some of the things that we want, looking at also using the modular framework as well to identify what are the interventions. Is it prevention? Is it HIV? Is it human rights? Is it TB? Like, what is it that we want overall broadly, and then what is the specific issue that we are asking for there, and then what is the intended impact and outcome, but also where you have the information, if you can have it, the costing information as well. So looking at the costing that I just spoke about as well, there also has been support for costing opportunities. This has been led by frontline aides and through technical assistance access that I spoke about. Communities, civil society have been able also to get community costing support for the interventions that you have been prioritizing and pushing for, and more information also to share, and also really looking forward to hearing for those from window 1 and 2, what have been your experiences around these two. I would say that the community annex and community costing are the core, really most very, very strategic, important new things that have been introduced in the grant cycle 7. So just a little bit more here. I spoke about the frontline aides has been contracted to develop these tools, and the tools were translated and finalized in French, Spanish, and Russian. And they were in orientations that were done for the consultants and for the technical teams that were supporting communities in the process. And the final 2 was revised and adapted a few months ago, just also based on the feedback from window 1 experiences. And of course, there was also virtual support to country teams and communities as well in terms of accessing that community costing support. The gender equality marker is also another document, another tool that's available in the funding application that was shared along with the allocation letters. That is also very useful for communities to know that it's there, that it's existing. Basically, it's just recommending that countries do a gender assessment, and out of that is assessment for each disease component. They need to make sure that they pick out, what are the priority issues, and the findings from the gender assessment need to inform the funding request as well. So data and indicators needs to be disaggregated by sex or by gender where applicable, and also at least in the funding request, addressing some of the priority issues that have come out of that assessment. The program essentials, these are also documents and tools, not tools per se, but I would say these are minimum, no, I wouldn't say also minimum. It's like recommendations from the Global Fund team and secretariat around some of the things that are seen as priority interventions across the board, especially for TB and HIV, and there are documents that I can also share that go into much details in terms of, for TB, for HIV, what are these? I think it's mainly meant to help you as tools and maybe as support to where you have also identified some of the similar things as priorities, and there's challenges around getting them included in the funding request. I think that it's a strong argument to use that these are in the Global Fund program essential package, and therefore there needs to be prioritized. Basically, it's an expectation that a lot of these interventions will be prioritized, and therefore you can use that as your leverage point, you know, to push and to make sure that some of those interventions are included. And I can share details and more information of where you can find and download these program essentials, just for the purpose of time. So I think that I will end here. But like I said, I have included a number of extra slides in here that I will not go through, especially on how you can access what I spoke about, the technical assistance, and for what issues can you access that technical assistance and how to go about it. There's a whole lot of information that I've added as additional slides that the team, the organizing team, can share with you. So I think I can pause there and end there, and I hope and look forward to hearing from you in terms of what have been your experiences so far, but also if you have any questions and feedback. Thank you so much, and back to you, Leggy.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much. I guess we're all well informed and seems pretty ready for the new engagement, I guess. And as you said, please share with us the presentation if you haven't discovered all. We're ready to share with all participants upon their request. Okay, so we're moving into the next session. As some of you may know, the Youth Lead and Y+ Global have developed a comprehensive guide to help young people engage in the Global Fund Grant Cycle 7. And I'm honored to invite the author of this guide to share with you how to use it and why it's important. And Jeremy will walk us through how to use this guide and highlight its key features. And this guide is an important resource for young people looking to engage with the GC7 process. And we're excited to hear from you, Jeremy.
Hi everyone, my name is Tan Fok Jun, or commonly known as Jeremy. So I will be the presenter for this particular report, as I am the consultant in developing this particular report called Young Key Population and Youth Engagement in the Global Fund Second Grant Cycle. So what I will do today is to go through with all of you about the agenda of today's presentation, and also the presentation of this particular report, as well as how can you actually use the report, in the relevant process within your own country while engaging with necessary stakeholder. So what we will do is we will look into, the introduction, why are we developing this report, as well as the methodology of developing the reports. And then we will go into preparation part, which I will talk about what are some of the things that you need to take note of, and also what are some of the information within the report for the preparation stages. And then I will go into the plan of action, where I will share a 6-step, tips for you of what you can actually do in the whole processes of the GC7. And lastly is to talk about the support and resources that is available within the report itself, and just a very quick summary at the end of this presentation. So without further ado, let's get into the introduction. So the purpose of why Youth Lead and also the Y+, why we are developing this particular engagement guide is to increase the knowledge of young people, young key population, and also youth-led organization about the Global Fund Grant Cycle processes itself. And the reason so is that often young people mention that they do not have adequate and also sufficient information to have meaningful engagement. So because of that, we want to equip also the youth-led organization with information about the Grant Cycle 7, and also provide any technical assistance in terms of developing the youth action plan while you are engaging in the processes itself. And lastly, we want to increase the youth participation and also the advocacy opportunity through capacity building, and also available and to identify available resources so that we can push forward some youth priorities within your own countries. And so how do we come out with the report? So we rely on a test review approaches on some of the existing reports, manual, as well as a guideline that illustrated good practices around the region, some experience about the youth experience with the Global Fund country coordinating mechanism, and also some meaningful youth engagement practices, you know, in proposal writing and also funding requests. So if you look at the reference report which I have listed here, so these are the 4 reports and the document that I have used in developing the report in developing the report based on some of the information that is available in this report. And one of the particular reports that I want to highlight, which is the situational analysis of challenge and facilitating factor for meaningful engagement of youth in CCM within the Asian and Pacific. It's a very good document for you to understand what is some of the input and what are some of the sharing from young people about the CCM mechanism within the Asian and Pacific region, and where are some of the gaps that I think we should take note of so that we can improve ourselves while engaging with certain stakeholders and also potential actors within the process of GC7 engagement. So with that said, okay, so the primary framework of the reports that I have, the engagement guide I have developed break into 3 particular part. So the first part is the preparation part, and the second part is the plan of action, and the third part is the support and also the resources, which I will go into details very quickly. So in the preparation part, we kind of illustrated and explained, you know, how does the processes of the Global Fund grant cycle actually works. So in each of the funding cycle, Global Fund actually allocates a donor fund to each eligible countries. So what will happen is the country will then take action to apply for their funding, and in the process of applying for funding, they would definitely need to engage in inclusive consultation at the country levels as well, and then what will happen is that they will do a series of technical review, and upon the approval from Global Fund and also the country the TRP technical review panels, what will happen is that the country will implement the grant, and when a country have received the grant and agree to implement the grant, this is where the civil society organization, youth-led organization, or various party in place who play a role in your national HIV response could start to do evaluation and oversight throughout the implementation of the program by monitoring, you know, what are the performance and whether is it working or not. So if you can look at the graph that I have indicated here, what will happen is that you will have a funding request submission where country are requested to actually submit in a simple language a proposal, but in a Global Fund language we call them the funding request, of indicating what are some of the activities and what are some of the components that your country would like to pitch and use the funding accordingly in supporting your country HIV response. And then after you have submitting a funding request to the Global Fund, and upon approval, the TRP team, which is the technical review panel within your own country, will review the proposal and review the funding request before it make into a grant. And once a grant has been made, once it had gotten the approval, this is where grant implementation will start. And then this is where also we do country dialogue, we do oversight consultation to monitor the progresses itself. So in order to make sure that we are able to participate in these processes in a meaningful manner, there are a few of the things that you need to take note, you know, in the process while you are preparing for the process of applying for the funding request. So the first thing is, and these are 5 of the thing, and I'll go into them straight away. So the first thing is to understand about the country coordinating mechanism. So what is CCM? So CCM is it's a mechanism or a representative bodies which encompasses all the sectors in the response of the disease within your own country. So it can be HIV, it can be tuberculosis, or it can be malaria, which we call them HDM as the abbreviation. So within the CCM committee itself, you would have the academic institution, representative from the academic institution, from the civil society, faith-based organization, government people, multilateral and also bilateral agency, non-governmental organization, as well as people living with the diseases, basically representative from the community themselves. and the private sector, and also technical assistance. And why it is so important for us to identify who is the members within the CCM, because this is very crucial for us to develop the strategic roadmap so that we know who are we going to engage with, who are we going to communicate with while we are developing the communication plan. And do bear in mind that the experience engaging with the CCM might actually change depending on, you know, who is actually sitting in your country's CCM, because not all the country would have a CCM youth representative, and the presence of having a youth representative plays a very significant role of how much the youth voices and also the community concern will be represented throughout the whole processes. And the particular of link that that I am attaching here, the country coordinating mechanism policy, including principle and requirement, is a reference that you can further read to have a deeper understanding of what is CCM is about and how you can actually reach out to some of these people. So what should you do when your country do not have a youth CCM member that you can get in contact or engage with? So the first thing you can do is to identify who is the person in charge in the broader coordination of the CCM, so that you can reach out to them in developing your roadmap and also your engagement plan. And throughout the conversation with this particular person, which is most likely what we call the CCM focal point person in your country, to identify how can youth-led organization or young people engage and contribute in the processes. So with this said, it is also important for you to identify the allies in CCM, who are some of the adult or other community members or other constituents who are willing to facilitate the youth-led organization or young people involvement in the processes. For example, while you are developing the youth notes, the guidance note, while there is any orientation program, if there is any meeting agenda, community consultation, oversight checklist, so on and so forth, and how can young people give feedback to all these allies so that they can bring all these voices forward in the CCM meetings. So what else can you do? You can utilize the CCM funding for external technical support, meaning that you can call for consultation, you can call for dialogues, you can call for meetings with youngsters to get, to create that kind of platform to develop, to disseminate, and also collect the feedback. And last, and you should also have frequent communication with other youth network and also the groups as well as the constitution, so that this can be done through methods such as like physical dialogue or consultation, as well as using digital approaches such as Zoom, WhatsApp group, as well as email threads, newsletter, infographic. Lastly, what you should do is also to lobby with the CCM member to get youth representative so that they can participate in community consultation, drafting the committee, and also to become a member of the drafting committee for the funding request, as well as the oversight for the grant implementation and advocacy. So the next component and the next important point that you need to take note is the eligibility. So in order for a country to apply for the Global Fund funding, you need to make sure that your country is eligible. So if you go to the so-called the Global Fund website, by assessing the country eligibility list to 2023, you would check your country portfolio statuses and also the eligibility statuses of your country. What are the particular diseases in your country, and what is the disease burden? One thing that is very important for you to take note is that all the low and also lower middle income countries are eligible to apply regardless of which disease burden. However, if your country falls into the category of upper middle income country, you must have at least a high burden of diseases in order to apply and also eligible for Global Fund financing. So for example, let's use Afghanistan as an example. So in Afghan, the disease burden is only high for malaria and tuberculosis, meaning that the country is only eligible to what I mean is that if let's say Afghanistan is a low-income country, so if you are low-income country, despite that the HIV is not a high disease burden, you are eligible. But there are some countries that is not eligible. For example, Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan malaria is not high, but because it is an upper middle income country, so you are not eligible to apply for malaria. So it is important for you to take note of the eligibility of your country in applying for the grant. So the next thing is the allocation letter. So in summary, allocation letter basically is a document that is sent by the Global Fund to your country CCM members about CCM Secretariat about what is the amount of money that is that is available for your country to apply, and what are some of the details within the document, such as the eligibility, the allocation amount, the co-financing requirement, the focus of the application, as well as the recommended application approaches. So once you, if you can get in contact with the CCM member and get access to the allocation letter, you will have more details of what is the priority of the funding is about, so that when you develop your engagement plan, you have an idea who are the important people for you to engage with, and how can you push forward and also further the youth agenda in place. And the next thing is the submission window. So do bear in mind that there is a deadline for each country in submitting the funding request. So it is important for you to make sure that the process of engagement is done in a due time, in a timely manner, as well as the process of developing the funding request, so that you have sufficient time for review and also feedback from the necessary parties and also youth groups. And this and you can also, and this slide will be provided, I believe, to all the participants, so that you can get access to all the link that I am provided here. So in the 2023 to 2025 funding request tracker, you can get access to your country information, and to see that, what is the portfolio of your country, as well as what is the deadline for the submission of the funding request. So lastly, it is very important for you to do a situational analysis before you start the process of engagement, because doing a situational analysis would help you to understand what is the current program implementation issues and program, what is the things that is actually working within your own country, what is not, and what are the gaps and also the challenges. So you should consider asking, so when you are engaging with your country partners, when you are developing the situational analysis, these are the kind of question that you should bear in mind. What is required, in order to increase and accelerate the impact of the existing current funding within your own country? Is the youth community not reachable through the current strategy? And also, is the intervention implemented actually excluding the youth community? So if your organization, or as a youth representative yourself, or as a young people, you do not have an idea how to conduct a situational analysis, just reach out to an expert through applying for technical support. So in which I will talk about in details what are some of the available resources and also available funding that you can apply for the technical support. So now, since that, so this is a dash that I want you to keep note. So a good plan is a plan that is planned, meaning that before we start a process of the engagement, the action or plan, we should already get all the information that we need, in place. And like what I have said, 5 particular of things: understanding your country CCM, making sure that you conduct a situational analysis, making sure that you review your country eligibility, and also the so-called particular of the submission deadline of your country funding request submission. So once you have all this information with you, which is available in the allocation letter, so this is where we start to plan for the action. So the first step that we are going to do is gathering information about the grant. So based on what I have just said, that is literally the first step that we should take, in the process of the engagement. So our recommendation to young people and also youth-led organization will always be to review the previous funding requests, to understand the current program performance, to look at what are some of the budget utilization, so that you understand the gaps within your own country, and also knowing that what are some of the intervention that you have applied, and also the focus of investment, as well as the gaps of programming and also the budget. So basically, before you start the process of developing the engagement and advocacy plan, you should have a good understanding already about the situation within your own country through reviewing documents such as the National Strategic Plan, situational analysis report, as well as some global reports that is available which depict the situation of the disease condition within your own country. So the next second step is to start to develop your action plan and also your communication plan. So who should we engage? That's the question that you should actually ask. So the first quick response and to that question is to go through the CCI member. Then other subsequent question comes, how do we reach out to the CCI member? Where are these CCM member, and then who else is in the CCM. So once you already identify that who is in the CCM, it is also important for you to engage with people within these particular of categories which I illustrated within the own figure, because all these parties and also actors play a very significant role within your own country. They might not be representative within the CCM. For example, the Global Fund team, because they have experience of the previous grant, and also they can provide you different experience and also perspective about what are some of the gaps within the grant. So it is very important for us to start developing the engagement plan of who are the potential people that you can actually reach out to, and start to identify and gather information of how to reach out to them. So once you already start your engagement, identifying potential stakeholders and also important actor while you develop your action plan.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I just had to cut it off. The guide has total 6 steps, and it will be explained very detailed in the guide. And I put in the chat box the link to access this guide, and I hope everyone can get this guide. And it's very youth friendly, so you can get all the information on here. So due to limited time, so I have to move into the next session, which will be the panel discussion. And thank you, Jeremy, for your hard work. So so I'm starting the so we're entering into the last session of this webinar. But it will be very, very rich panel discussion featuring the representatives from 4 different countries sharing their experience and practices on the engagement in the GC7. So first, we have Mason from Vietnam, who is the Director of Programs at Lighthouse Social Enterprise in Vietnam. And he has a broad work portfolio, including YKB advocacy in the national HIV response, stakeholder engagement, and transdiagnostic intervention delivery, specific scientific research, and integrated program implementation. And next, we have Muhirten from Mongolia, the national coordinator at Hugli, Mongolia, the youth NGO advocating for the rights of YKB and the LGBTQI community in Mongolia. He has experience in advocating for youth-led HIV response nationally, as well as empowering youth movements, civil society relations, and the UN advocacy. So our third panelist is Weir Moses, a dynamic, innovative, and skillful youthful leader who has been tested by many by time in youth leadership, youth programming, and movement building. And since 2011, Moses actively engaged in public health practice and grown through the leadership rank. And he's the founder and the current executive director at Peer-to-Peer Uganda, based in Kampala. And lastly, we have Sarah-Lee Isis, the executive director and co-founder of Lidar Community Foundation, based in Southern Africa and Namibia. And she's a community activist working with adolescents, girls, and youth, and education and empowerment at the community level, particularly focusing on SRHR education and economic empowerment and strengthening aspect of this young woman. So welcome to the panel, everyone. And I would like to you to all turn on your camera. And also, if participants have any question for our panelists, please put in the chat box. If you're watching on Facebook Live, then also put on the chat box. So our colleague Tawanda is taking note of all the questions, and we might have another 5 minutes after the discussion for the Q&A. Yes, so welcome to the panel. I would like to start with the question of how did you ensure meaningful engagement of young people in the development of new funding proposal for the GC7? Yeah, can I start with Mason?
Thank you, Leggy, for that very amazing question. I guess I could speak for the experience of Lighthouse. You know, we are based in Vietnam, and I would love to listen to, you know, like the experiences of other panelists in other countries as well. I guess, you know, for Lighthouse, given, you know, like the current cycle, we have, you know, employed various, you know, strategies and tactics when it comes to engaging the opinions and the voices of young people in the process. One of which was the fact that we consulted the community. So we organized 2 different community consultation meetings early this year. And one of which we had a separate one, you know, for young people who were from 16 to 30 years old. We really saw the importance in hosting a separate consultation meeting, you know, for young people, you know, to really like deliver their voices and, you know, and to really like listen to their needs. Secondly, you know, like after that consultation, we really synthesized all the information that we gladly got from our community partners, and we transformed those into one singular comprehensive report, for which we sent to the 2 key PRs here, you know, of the Global Fund in Vietnam, which was the Vietnam Authority of you know, HIV and AIDS Control under Ministry of Health, and the other is VUSTA, which is a coalition of technology and science in Vietnam. So those are like the 2 key recipients of the Global Fund in Vietnam. And we also sent our report to, you know, the sub-recipients under VUSTA as well. And then also the like the country, you know, coordinating mechanism, CCM, like all the team members. And then we got, you know, like recognition and acknowledgements from them, and some sort of a confirmation that they would take into consideration of these recommendations. So that was like the second strategy that we did. And then after that, we got invited to, you know, a few, you know, important stakeholder meetings where we got to make direct comments on the draft, you know, given that like time points. And, you know, within those stakeholder meetings, we really referenced the report, right? Like the report that we produced, to really sort of do like a cross check of, you know, like the current proposal and what the community is you know, raising as needs. And we could see that there are some areas where, you know, like the communities are definitely covered and well addressed, but there are some other areas where, you know, like the writing group could consider further and, you know, to really be inclusive of the communities. So we did make direct comments on those things. And then after those meetings, we really, you know, did like recaps on social media and routinely update the community, especially young people, on, you know, like what was really going on, you know what I mean? Like what were the changes and what are some of the other areas where they could, you know, provide further advocacy, you know, for you know, like further revisions. So I think that was really like our system of you know, strategies where we tried to be, you know, like meaningfully engage young people and stakeholders in this process.
Thank you so much, Mason. That was very, very helpful. So can I ask Mono about what methods can be utilized to ensure that the opinions and the recommendations of young people are considered in the development of new funding proposal?
Hi everyone, very nice to see you. And I really would like to comment that Jeremy's guideline is exactly mostly what we followed on our own. And so the methods to be utilized to ensure our opinions and recommendations will be considered is we have to be, whenever we meet, whenever we consult, whenever we conduct a community consultation, there's always have to be some evidence-based recommendations and also detailed reports on what was discussed, who was there, was different young key populations representation ensured, and also, you know, just to be very clear and detailed about what exactly are our recommendations. And also we can use online channels to to compile from the rural areas the recommendations, and you know, just to collect all the sources that we can and deliver it to the people making the proposal, making the grant proposal. And also another method would be directly meet the people who are making the proposal, especially in our case, meeting the international consultant was very helpful. The international consultant was very open to me, listening to what we had to say. And as a result, we made 4 areas of recommendations with a lot of details. And the document that the Global Fund representative was showing just now, the community priority document, right? So there was 9 priorities that the international consultant made, and 4 of them were proposed by our young key population consultation. So we found that very successful and very empowering, and we hope to monitor it and not just get out of the engagement and still keep on engaging. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you so much. So the last question would be dedicated to Sirli. And I would like to ask, how can the Global Fund ensure that youth-led organizations are sufficiently resourced to effectively engage in the design, implementation, and monitoring of the Global Fund programs?
Thank you, Lechi. And thank you to everybody and all the panelists this afternoon. A particular gratitude we want to extend is to the Y+ Global and all other partners of UNAIDS who are sitting on this panel this afternoon. For us, it is really a great opportunity because it is also one of a kind and the first time that our project has been included. So it already speaks volumes about the Her Voice Fund and the Y+ Global Partnership that we have enjoyed in the community here. Our center is based in the heart of the community. So for Global Fund to effectively include a community and the youth leadership, they need to consider, they need to have regard for the young people in the community. And I think it has been shown through this leadership of Y+ Global that people that have been forgotten, particularly the young people, can be included in the processes. And I would like to just mention before I answer the question, Lechi, that through this process, we have really learned a lot. We are empowered right now. Through our consultations we hosted with the young people at the community level at the center, we had about 3 consultation meetings with young people. It was really enlightening to see how unaware the people were about the Global Fund processes in the country. So this process has been very empowering for us. And to come to the question, having regard to the requirements and the needs developed by the young people at the community level is very, very important for Global Fund in all areas, including gender equality, you know, government and participation, representation, mental health, public governance, and relevant programming for all the young people. I think like the previous speaker spoke and said, a lot of the needs of the community and young people are excluded in the programs that have already been approved by Global Fund. And in the case of Namibia, we are at a very unfortunate stage that we joined this program now, because when we visited the office of the principal recipient of the Global Fund grant, our proposal have already been submitted. And we are currently waiting for feedback from the GF around July, August, but we have at least engaged, and that is very, very important. We are still in the process to continue to engage. What is also very important for Global Fund is to recognize the need for an ambitious and a holistic and a coordinated approach to creating better opportunities and outcomes for young people. And also to promote the full inclusion of all young people, and particularly underrepresented groups. Like, for example, for Leader Community Foundation, we work with a marginalized and a vulnerable group of young mothers who mainly come from highly marginalized backgrounds in informal settlements. Without the intervention of Y+ Global, Her Voice Fund, and Leader Community Foundation, these women would not have a voice on a platform like this. So for us, it's important that GF can look at the needs of this type of excluded groups and make sure that the support they give to different countries receives and reflects their own background and identity of all the groups of young people in their diversities. So that is actually my advice that I can give to GF. But in the meantime, also, I want to applaud Y+ Global, Her Voice Fund, and yourself sitting on this platform this afternoon, UNH representative who spoke so well about the programming for young people, and all our partners for including a program like ours, who is sitting in the community representing marginalized and vulnerable young people this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really great to hear about it. And we have to invite our last speaker, where Moses. So I'd like to ask, how did you ensure a meaningful engagement of young people in the development of funding, a new funding proposal for the Global Fund GC7? Moses, are you there? Hello? Okay, so we can get back to him if he's back. So, and there's one question to be asked for all panelists, that can you please provide your top 2 recommendations to the stakeholders, how to ensure youth engagement in the new funding cycle? It can be based on your personal experience or the organizational experience. It can be your peer organizations experience as well. How to ensure our engagement in the new funding cycle. So can I start with Sally?
Yes, Leche, we go back to the point of consultation. Consultation, getting youth involved in all the level discussions that we are hosting, referring to the programming for the youth, because without their presence and meaningful input and engagement of youth leadership, youth itself, and community-based youth groups, we are not able to do that. And for us, the way we have worked at our community center, if I may share it with the panelists and overall the leaders and funders in this area of youth engagement, is that the way we have gone about is to advertise on our social media platforms by word of mouth, approaching church groups and youth groups, even the constituency office. Even this morning, we were busy speaking to the leaders at the constituency office to push the agenda of having the young people included, like our friend Jeremy said this morning, on the CCMs and also on the constituency level networks of HIV and AIDS and young people living with HIV. So it's very, very important that we reach out on all the media platforms to include all the young people in their diversities, to be part of the programming and the planning, and to make sure that we do proper needs assessments, that we can find out what are the needs of the people at the community level before we even decide to design programs for the people and decide to support needs of the people without including them. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I can't be agreeing with that. That's totally right. We need to use a lot of social media resources and then reach out to all young people and to get their ideas. And that's why we can get the good input. Thank you so much. Can I ask Mono to share 2 top recommendations?
So from our experience at Youth Lead Mongolia, the funding is always an important factor in terms of organizing all these consultations and also just ensuring that everyone is there. And especially as a grassroots organization, and Global Fund should specifically increase funding for underfunded youth NGOs, because a lot of young people, especially young key populations around the world, have the passion and energy and ideas, but sometimes sustainability in terms of finances is an issue. And my second recommendation to Global Fund and CCMs around the world is having better enforcement, or having even broader and stricter enforcement of the requirement to include civil society and key affected populations requirement. Sometimes, in some cases, it might be just country team collecting some key populations and just, okay, we did the consultation without a meaningful engagement. So it needs to be even more strongly recommended, strongly enforced by Global Fund itself during all stages of Global Funded programs. And that would be a very good leverage for them to actually include young key populations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mona. That was a very strong recommendations. And thanks for pointing out this funding issues. That's been a problem for us like for an ages and decades. And we're still trying to sort it out. And that's why maybe regional networks, international organizations such as Youth Lead and Y Plus Global are existing and here to help and support for the grassroots organizations. But yeah, and also the better enforcement and the requirements to include young people in the CCM and the funding request development process. It's such a crucial thing. Thank you. Yeah, can I hear from Mason and the top two recommendations?
Totally. I guess like my first one really like amplifies what Moody just shared about funding. I guess like some of the like top tier, like if not key priority recommendation here should be, just like having like a separate stream of funding for civil society in general. And under that, we should have a separate stream of funding, sub-funding, for youth-led organizations. If we have such a clear mechanism for funding that prioritizes, like the engagement, the participation, and also the capacity of civil society, and then we can like trickle down, to such, for youth-led organizations. I believe that, these youth-led like organizations are going to be well capacitated. They're going to be well resourced, and then they're going to be well prepared, to be to play a crucial part, in like the next upcoming, global fund cycles. So, with that said, I think there should be another mechanism, to put everyone in checks and balance, and which will, kind of like segues into my second recommendation, that is, to build concrete and, implementable, assessment for meaningful engagement of youth in, like national sort of like processes, like for the Global Fund cycle. And what that means is that, I think Amanda previously already mentioned and listed a couple of different tools and assessments, including like the gender equality marker. And then I think like Jeremy mentioned something about like the situational like analysis. So there seems to be quite a lot of different assessments and frameworks and different tools that, stakeholders and different parties could, use and really like pivot their process. Why do we not have, like a separate tool, to really measure and monitor meaningful like engagement of youth in this process, right? So I think that should be something that we could pilot and implement in the next round. So.
Yes, thank you so much, Mason. I can't say like capacity building is enough. It's never been enough. So we need to keep building it through the experts, and this program has never should stop. And also thanks for pointing out this assessment and the using tools. Young people are not really experienced, not really expertise yet, so still they need to use these tools, and then we need to still keep producing it and then advertising it. Thank you so much for pointing out. I see someone's hands up, but if you have any question, put in the chat box, so we'll be able to ask from our panelists. So we've got one question, which was, what was your most effective strategy for engaging youth in the Global Fund GC7 process? I don't know who was. Okay, I think that the question is dedicated to Sirli. Sirli, can you answer on that question?
Yes, Leji, the most effective one that we use to engage young people into the Global Fund processes was through our consultation with youth at our community level. We have engaged up to about 120 young people in different groups of 40 at different stages. Out of these groups came a committee that was elected amongst themselves, which will accompany us as we are going out to reach out to the stakeholders, as Jeremy well mentioned in his guide, that we needed to reach out before we could even get to the situational analysis of our own project. We had these representatives elected amongst themselves, by themselves. So we successfully had 3 young people accompanying us physically to all the meetings that we attended so far. There are still some meetings ongoing to engage with young people. They were literally physically sitting in these meetings and asking questions. For example, the meeting we hosted with Mrs. Karirao, Juliet Karirao, at the Ministry of Health and Social Services, who are the principal recipients of the GF grant here in Namibia, and she is the head of the PMU at the Ministry of Health and Social Services head office here in Namibia. We had 3 representatives from the young people committee elected by themselves for themselves to represent them. And feedback will then go back to Y Plus Global, and it will also go back to the young people at the community level again, as we continue to engage to see how we can get involved in these processes. That was really a highlight for us, knowing that it's the first time that our project is involved in this kind of an engagement, and that can be seen as an achievement from our side and a highlight for the program. Yes.
Thank you so much. We're so in agreement. I guess this led by, implemented by, assessed by, and participated by youth will be the best strategy. Thank you so much. And finally, we have a Brian Moses available. So welcome to the panel. So we still have a couple of minutes to get your input here. So can you please share how did you ensure the meaningful engagement of young people in the funding request development process in your country? Moses, are you there?
Hi, Ligi. I think Moses said that his connection was unstable because it was raining.
Yeah, he just raised his hand and then he just left. Did he?
It's raining heavily, so his network is unstable. He might be able to rejoin. Let me follow up with him.
Okay. Yeah, so we're right on time. Unfortunately, we missed Moses in our panel. That would be so great if he could have joined, but there was a weather condition that not able to connect. And thank you so much for all the panelists. And we have addressed so many important issues and provided valuable insights on youth engagement and provided your perspective in a country level. That was so impressive. Your experience and techniques shared from your respective countries and organization have been truly, truly inspiring. And unfortunately, I have to end the webinar here. And although I wish it could have lasted a bit longer, but we have a time limit. And we have heard from experts, and also we did a soft launch of the guide for YKP in GC7. And it has been very informative and insightful discussion with all with all speakers and panelists who have provided important insights and techniques on effective youth engagement. And the webinar is just one of the many advocacy efforts we do to support young people and youth-led organizations around the world. And we're committed to implementing more programs and providing support to ensure that young people's voices are heard in that critical process. And I hope this webinar has been helpful to you. And I would like to express my gratitude to all the excellent speakers, panelists, and all the participants who have joined us on Zoom and Facebook Live. And lastly, I would like to thank to the organizing team from Youth Lead and Y Plus Global, who worked tirelessly to bring us together today. And if you guys need any further assistance or information, never be hesitant to contact us through website or email. We're very welcome to help you out on it. And so thank you all. And I wish you all the best in your future engagement. So we're ending the webinar. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Sawadika.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.